The small salvage ship Opportunity drifted silently through the empty sector, its sensors scanning the darkness for anything worth money. Captain Tom Walker sat in his worn command chair, his eyes tired from staring at screens all day. Times were hard for independent salvagers like him. "Anything yet, Lisa?" Tom asked his navigator, who was busy checking readouts on her console. Lisa shook her head. "Nothing, Captain. Just the usual space junk. Not enough to cover our fuel costs." Tom sighed. "We need a real find soon, or we'll have to sell the ship." The thought made his stomach tight. The Opportunity wasn't much, just an old Class C salvager with patches on its patches, but it was home to him and his crew of 5. "Captain," Dave called from the sensor station, his voice suddenly excited. "I got something at coordinates 227 Mark 88. It's big." Tom straightened in his chair. On screen, the main display flickered, showing a dark shape against the stars. It was a ship, and unlike the usual broken freighters they found, this one seemed mostly intact. Its design was strange, boxy and practical, with none of the sleek lines of modern vessels. "Run an ID scan," Tom ordered. The ship's AI responded in its flat voice. "Scanning. Warning. Unusual energy patterns detected. Recommend caution." "What kind of energy?" asked Mac Reynolds, the ship's engineer. He was an older man with gray in his beard who had seen just about everything in his 40 years of spacefaring. "Unknown pattern. Low intensity but complex signature," the AI replied. "Give me that ID," Tom said, ignoring the warning. After a moment, the AI displayed the results. Earth vessel persistence. Experimental class. Last recorded in service 87 years ago. Reported missing during early expansion era. The crew exchanged looks. Earth vessels from that era were rare. Most had been scrapped or upgraded beyond recognition. "An experimental ship from the early days," Tom said, a smile growing on his face. "This could be our lucky break." Mac didn't share his excitement. "Cap, those early experimental ships were dangerous. Some had unstable drives, radiation leaks, and some had technology worth a fortune to collectors," Tom finished. "We're checking it out." 6 hours later, Tom floated through the airlock connecting the Opportunity to the derelict ship. Mac and their security officer, Ben, followed close behind, their magnetic boots clicking as they attached to the metal floor. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness of the dead ship. "Power's been out for decades," Mac said, checking his scanner. "Life support too. But the hull's intact." Tom moved his light across the walls. Unlike modern ships with their smooth surfaces and hidden systems, this vessel had exposed pipes, conduits, and manual controls everywhere. It was built in the days when ships needed human hands to fix them, not automated repair drones. "Let's find the bridge," Tom said. "Ben, watch our backs." They made their way through narrow corridors that spoke of a time when space efficiency trumped comfort. The ship felt solid, built to last, not like the disposable corporate vessels of today. The bridge was smaller than Tom expected, with stations for perhaps 5 crew members. Dust floated in the beam of their lights, undisturbed for nearly a century. "Let's see if we can wake her up," Tom said, brushing dust from what appeared to be the main console. Mac connected a portable power unit, giving her minimal juice. "Don't want to overload anything." Lights flickered weakly on the console, and a low hum filled the bridge. A display sputtered to life, showing a simple logo, a stylized Earth with the words Project Persistence below it. "It works," Tom said, surprised that such old systems would respond at all. Mac studied his scanner with a frown. "Captain, I'm getting weird readings from the engine section. This ship, it's not standard Earth tech from that era." "Meaning?" "Meaning either this was cutting-edge experimental stuff, or—" Mac paused. "Or what?" Ben asked. "Or it was something they didn't want people to know about," Mac finished. Tom's excitement grew. Secret technology meant money. Serious money. "Can you access the ship's logs?" Mac worked the old-fashioned manual controls for several minutes before shaking his head. Systems too degraded. Maybe if we restore more power. Do it, Tom ordered. I want to know everything about this ship. Back on the Opportunity, Tom filed an official salvage claim. Under galactic law, the first to find an abandoned vessel had rights to it if the original owners didn't respond within 30 days. For a ship this old, there was little chance anyone would contest their claim. Salvage claim filed, Lisa confirmed, but don't expect the big companies to care. They're busy with the border tensions. Tom nodded. The news feeds had been full of reports about the Vorn hegemony's fleet movements. The alien empire had been pushing at the edges of human space for months, and the major powers were focused on military preparations. Their loss, Tom said. We'll tow the Persistence to Ella shipyards and see what she's really worth. That night, while the others slept, Mac called Tom to the small engineering bay. You need to see this, he said, pointing to scans of the derelict's engine core. Tom looked at the complex diagrams, but couldn't make sense of them. What am I seeing? That's just it, Mac said, his voice low with wonder. I don't fully know. This drive system. It's nothing like what we use today. It's not even like the experimental drives from that era that I studied. Is it alien? Tom asked, suddenly worried. Salvaging alien tech without permits meant serious jail time. Mac shook his head. No, it's human-built, but it's like they jumped ahead about 100 years, and then this technology just disappeared. Never went into production. Why would they abandon advanced technology? Tom wondered aloud. Mac's face was serious in the blue light of the display. That's what worries me. Nobody abandons better technology without a good reason. The next day, they managed to restore more power to the Persistence's systems. The ship's computer came partially online, revealing fragmented records. Most of the data is corrupted, Dave reported as they gathered on the bridge of the old ship. But I found this in a protected memory core. The screen showed a video recording of a man in an old-style Earth uniform. The image was poor, with static cutting through it, but his words were clear enough. Final log of Captain James Miller, Earth Ship Persistence. We've encountered something out here, something we weren't prepared for. We're initiating Protocol Omega. The ship will be placed in dormant mode until... The recording cut to static, then resumed. Warning to whoever finds this vessel. The storm is coming. The markers we found on Mars were warnings, not invitations. Persistence was built for this moment. Remember, the key is adaptation, not power. More static, and then the recording ended. What storm? What markers on Mars? Lisa asked, her voice hushed. I don't know, Tom said, but I think we just found something much more valuable than salvage. He looked around at the primitive-seeming bridge with new respect. We need to learn everything we can about this ship. Ben, who had been quiet until now, pointed at a flashing symbol on one of the displays. What's that? Mac leaned in, studying it. It looks like some kind of countdown. To what? Tom asked. No one had an answer, but as they worked to revive more of the ancient vessel, they couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled onto something that would change everything, not just for them, but possibly for all of humanity. The Opportunity moved slowly through space, towing the much larger Persistence behind it. It had been 3 days since they found the old ship, and Tom was growing more excited with each new discovery. How's our course looking, Lisa? Tom asked, sipping the bitter coffee that was standard on salvage ships. On track for Ella shipyards. We'll be there in 2 days if the tow cables hold, she replied, checking the navigation screen. The news feeds are crazy with reports about the Vorn fleet movements. Nobody's even noticed our salvage claim filing. Tom smiled. Good. The less attention we get, the better. Down in the cargo bay, which now served as their makeshift command center for studying the Persistence, Mac and Dave were trying to unlock more of the ship's secrets. I've never seen anything like this, Mac said, pointing to a diagram of the ship's drive system. It's like it bends space somehow, but not using the standard fold methods. Dave nodded. And look at these defense systems. They're adaptive. They learn from each encounter. Learn how? Tom asked as he entered the cargo bay. The ship records attack patterns and automatically adjusts its shields and countermeasures, Dave explained. Modern ships have something similar, but this is different. More advanced, actually. Tom leaned over their shoulders to look at the screens. So this ship was built to fight. Mac shook his head. Not exactly. It wasn't built with heavy weapons. It was built to survive. To adapt. The ship's countdown timer had reached 0 that morning, but nothing had happened. At least nothing they could detect. It remained a mystery among many. I think I can get more of the computer systems online, Dave said. Maybe then we'll understand what this ship was really for. The Vorn hegemony's advanced ships had entered the outer reaches of human space, causing panic in the border colonies. On the main news channels, military experts discussed strategy while politicians made speeches about standing firm against alien aggression. In the common room of the Opportunity, the crew watched the reports with growing concern. They say the Vorn ships are faster and more heavily armed than anything we have, Lisa said. Ben, who had served in the Earth Defense Force before becoming a security officer on salvage ships, nodded grimly. I've seen classified reports on their technology. If they bring their main fleet, we're in trouble. Maybe that's what the Persistence was built for, Tom suggested. The warning about the coming storm. What if they knew about the Vorn back then? The idea hung in the air. It seemed impossible that ship designers from nearly a century ago could have known about a threat that was only now emerging, and yet the timing was strange. Whatever it was built for, Tom continued, we need to get it working again. I've got a feeling it's worth more than simple salvage now. Ellis shipyards came into view the next day, a massive structure orbiting a small mining moon. Dozens of ships were docked for repairs or upgrades, most of them commercial vessels being converted for defensive capabilities because of the Vorn threat. Tom hailed the shipyard. Ellis Control, this is Captain Walker of the salvage vessel Opportunity. Requesting docking clearance. We have a special project requiring your expertise. The response was quick and dismissive. Salvage vessels dock at Bay 94. Standard rate supply. We're busy with military contracts, so don't expect priority service. As they approached their assigned bay, they could see the shipyard was indeed busy. Military vessels from Earth and its allies were being fitted with additional weapon systems, and crews worked around the clock. After docking, Tom met with the shipyard manager, a thin man named Howard who seemed perpetually annoyed. We don't have time for salvage restoration, Howard said after Tom explained what they needed. Every available engineer is working on military preparations. This isn't just any salvage, Tom insisted. It's the Persistence, an experimental Earth ship from the early expansion era. Howard was unimpressed. Old tech doesn't interest us. We're dealing with cutting-edge defense systems now. Tom knew he needed to change tactics. What if I told you this ship has stealth capabilities beyond anything you're installing on those military vessels? Howard raised an eyebrow. Prove it. Back aboard the Persistence, Tom, Mac, and Dave worked frantically to demonstrate the ship's capabilities. After hours of connecting power systems and bypassing damaged circuits, they managed to activate one of the ship's subsystems. It's ready, Mac said, wiping sweat from his forehead. The phase shift module is operating at minimal capacity. It won't last long, but it should be enough for a demonstration. Tom contacted Howard, who had reluctantly agreed to observe. Watch your sensors now, Tom instructed. Mac pressed a sequence of controls. The lights dimmed momentarily, and a low hum filled the ship. On the Ellis Shipyard's control deck, Howard stared at his sensor display in disbelief. The Persistence had completely disappeared. Where did it go? He demanded. 20 seconds later, the ship reappeared on sensors. That's impossible, Howard said when Tom contacted him again. No ship can just vanish from all sensors like that. Not even the stealth technology we're installing can do that. Tom couldn't hide his smile. This one can. And there's more. Adaptive defense systems, space-folding drive technology. Things that were developed and then apparently forgotten. Howard's attitude changed completely. I'll assign a team immediately. This could be valuable for the current situation. As the shipyard engineers began work on restoring the Persistence, Tom and his crew continued exploring the vessel. In a sealed compartment near the bridge, they found what appeared to be the captain's private quarters. "Look at this," Lisa said, holding up an old-fashioned paper notebook. Actual handwritten notes. The notebook contained observations, calculations, and personal thoughts from Captain Miller. Most entries were routine, but one page caught their attention. Mars expedition found more than we expected. The artifacts aren't just relics. They're a message. Or a warning. Command doesn't believe my interpretation, but they've authorized Project Persistence anyway. If I'm right about what's coming, this ship may be humanity's only chance. Another entry, dated weeks later, was even more disturbing. First contact with the Vorn scout ships. They didn't detect us thanks to the phase technology, but what we saw confirms my worst fears. Their technology is beyond ours in every way. Earth isn't ready. We're implementing Protocol Omega. The ship will wait. The Vorn, Ben whispered. They knew about them back then. Tom felt a chill run down his spine. And they built this ship specifically to counter them. As if responding to their discovery, the ship's computer systems suddenly came to life. Displays lit up across the bridge, and a soft voice spoke from the speakers. Protocol Omega complete. Dormancy phase ended. Sentinel program active. I am Pearl, automated system of the Earth vessel Persistence. The storm has arrived. The crew stared at each other in shock. The ghost ship had awakened, apparently of its own accord, just as the Vorn fleet approached human space. Pearl, Tom said hesitantly, what is your purpose? The computer's voice was calm and clear. To ensure humanity's survival against the Vorn hegemony. Captain Miller encountered them 87 years ago and knew they would eventually come in force. I was built to be ready when that day arrived. And you think that day is now? Lisa asked. Sensor data confirms Vorn fleet signatures matching those recorded during first contact, Pearl replied. The probability is 99.7% that this is the invasion Captain Miller predicted. Tom looked at his crew, then back at the now active displays showing the ship's systems coming online one by one. I think, he said slowly, we need to contact Earth Defense Force. They need to know what we found. The next 3 days were a blur of activity. Military engineers worked alongside Tom's crew to fully restore the Persistence's systems. Pearl guided them, filling in gaps in their understanding and helping calibrate systems that hadn't been active in decades. As they worked, news from the front grew worse. The first major engagement between human forces and the Vorn had ended in disaster. 3 Earth battleships destroyed, with only minimal damage to the alien fleet. Their shields adapt too quickly to our weapons, a grim-faced officer reported during a briefing. And their targeting systems are far more precise than ours. Current projections give us less than a 15% chance of stopping their advance to Earth. Reed turned to Tom after the briefing. Your ship better be everything you claim it is. We're running out of options. Tom felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. He had started this journey looking for salvage, for profit. Now the fate of humanity might rest on what they had found. I found something you should see, Lisa called to Tom later that night. She had been working with Pearl to recover more of the ship's original memory files. On a display, she showed him footage from the Persistence's first encounter with the Vorn. The images were grainy and partially corrupted, but clear enough to be terrifying. The Vorn ships moved with impossible speed, their weapons cutting through the defenses of several Earth vessels in seconds. But the Persistence, using its phase shift technology, had managed to evade detection. The footage showed how Captain Miller had observed the Vorn tactics, allowing Pearl to record and analyze their attack patterns. They never knew we were there, Lisa said. Miller gathered all this intelligence and then disappeared with the ship, just as he was ordered to. He knew they'd be back, Tom said, and he made sure we'd be ready when they came. The final clip showed Miller recording his last log entry. To whoever finds this ship, it may seem primitive, but it's humanity's best hope. The Vorn rely on overwhelming force and superior technology. They've never faced an enemy that could adapt as quickly as they can. The Persistence isn't meant to outgun them. It's meant to outsmart them. The day before the Persistence was scheduled to join Earth's defense fleet, Tom found Mac alone on the bridge, staring at displays showing the approaching Vorn Armada. Having second thoughts? Tom asked. Mac shook his head. Just thinking about how strange life is. A week ago, we were just looking for junk to salvage. Now we're about to face an alien invasion in a century-old ship. We could still walk away, Tom said, though he knew neither of them would. Let the military handle it. They don't understand this ship like we do, Mac replied. Besides, I've spent my whole life fixing things. Maybe that's why we found the Persistence. Maybe we're the ones who are supposed to fix this situation. Tom put a hand on his friend's shoulder. Get some rest. Tomorrow we find out what this ship can really do. As Mac left, Tom turned to the main console. Pearl, what are our actual chances against the Vorn fleet? Pearl's voice was as calm as ever. Based on current data and simulations, probability of success against the full Vorn Armada is 23.7%. Not great odds, Tom murmured. Captain Miller faced worse odds during first contact, Pearl responded. He believed that adaptability would eventually triumph over raw power. The Persistence was built on that principle. Tom looked around at the bridge of the once-forgotten ship. Tomorrow it would face the test it was built for, nearly a century after its creation. A ship everyone had ignored was about to confront the most powerful invasion force humanity had ever seen. Well, he said quietly, let's prove Captain Miller right. The command center of the Earth Defense Force was filled with grim faces. Holographic displays showed the Vorn Armada, hundreds of warships advancing steadily toward Earth. Reports from the outer colonies were devastating. Defense stations destroyed, planetary shields failing, civilian evacuation ships being shot down without mercy. Commander Reed stood before the Defense Council, 7 men and women who led Earth's military forces. They had listened to her report about the Persistence with skepticism written across their faces. You expect us to place our hopes on a salvage vessel? General Santos asked, his voice heavy with doubt. One that's been drifting in space for nearly a century. Not just any vessel, Reed replied firmly. One specifically designed to counter Vorn technology. Admiral Chen shook her head. We need real solutions, Commander. Not fairy tales about magical old ships. With respect, Admiral, Reed said, our real solutions are failing. The Newcastle battle group was destroyed this morning. The Vorn shields adapt to our weapons after just a few hits. We need something they haven't seen before. The council members exchanged troubled glances. They knew the situation was desperate. What exactly do you propose? Asked General Santos. Reed activated a holographic display showing battle plans. A joint operation. Our main fleet engages the Vorn command ships here. She pointed to a location near Mars orbit. Meanwhile, the Persistence leads a small group to flank their formation, drawing off part of their force. A diversion, Admiral Chen asked. More than that, Reed answered. A test of the ship's capabilities against actual Vorn vessels. If it succeeds, we'll have valuable data. If it fails, she didn't need to finish the thought. After a moment of silence, the council chairman spoke. We don't have many options left. Very well, Commander. Your plan is approved. But don't expect much support. We need every ship we can muster for the main defense. Reed nodded. I understand, sir. We'll make do with what we have. Tom stood on the bridge of the Persistence, watching as the final preparations were made. Military technicians had installed updated communication systems and reinforced some of the hull plating. But otherwise, the ship remained much as it had been when they found it. Mac approached him, wiping his hands on a rag. "All systems check out. Pearl says we're as ready as we'll ever be." "How's the crew?" Tom asked. "Scared," Mac replied honestly. "But ready. The military volunteers are settling in fine. Bit confused by some of our systems, but they're learning." Commander Reed had assigned a dozen military personnel to supplement Tom's small crew. Their expertise in modern combat would complement the salvagers' knowledge of the ship's unique systems. Lisa entered the bridge, her usual calm demeanor showing cracks of anxiety. "We've received the final battle plans. We're designated Strike Group Omega, the Persistence plus 3 modern frigates." "Only 3?" Tom asked, surprised. "They can't spare more," Lisa said. "Most of the fleet is gathering for the main defense action." Tom looked around at his crew, the people who had started this journey with him as simple salvagers. Now they were about to face the most powerful enemy humanity had ever encountered. "I need to say something," he began, his voice steady despite his nerves. "None of you signed up for this. We were looking for salvage, not a war. If anyone wants to leave now, I understand. No one will think less of you." The crew exchanged glances, but no one moved. Ben, who had been quiet for most of the preparations, spoke up. "Captain, before I joined your crew, I served in the Defense Force. I saw good people die because we didn't have the right tools for the job." He gestured around the bridge. "This ship might be the right tool. I'm staying." One by one, the others nodded in agreement. Besides, Dave added with a nervous grin, "Someone needs to keep Pearl's systems running smoothly." "Thank you," Tom said simply. "All of you." Later that day, Commander Reed arrived for a final briefing. "The Vorn will reach Mars orbit in 14 hours, she told them, activating a tactical display. "That's when the main fleet will engage them. Your strike group will move out ahead of time, taking position here, behind Deimos." The display showed the small Martian moon, which would shield them from the Vorn sensors until the battle began. "When the main engagement starts, you'll emerge and attack the rear section of their right flank," Reed continued. "Your mission is to draw off as many of their ships as possible, giving our main force a better chance against their command vessels." Tom studied the display. "So we're the bait?" Reed met his eyes directly. "Yes, and likely a sacrifice. The military analysis gives your strike group less than a 20% chance of survival." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. "But," Reed added, "those same analysts haven't seen what this ship can do." "I have." She looked around at the crew. "Remember, your primary mission is to gather combat data on how the Persistence's systems perform against the Vorn. Any damage you inflict is a bonus." After Reed left, Tom turned to Pearl. "What do you think of our chances? Based on current battle projections and assuming full functionality of all systems, the Persistence has a 42.8% probability of survival," Pearl responded. "However, the probability of mission success is 67.3%. "How do you define mission success?" Mac asked. "Gathering sufficient combat data to improve Earth's defensive capabilities against the Vorn," Pearl answered, "and demonstrating the effectiveness of adaptive systems against their technology." Tom nodded slowly. Not exactly reassuring, but better than the military estimate. The journey to Mars was quiet. Each crew member dealt with their fear in their own way. Some of the military personnel shared stories of previous battles. Dave spent hours studying Pearl's systems. Lisa pored over navigational charts, planning escape routes. Ben checked and rechecked the ship's limited weapons. Tom found Mac in the engine room, making final adjustments to the phase shift drive. "How's it looking?" Tom asked. "As good as it can be," Mac replied. "This technology is amazing, Tom. The way it folds space around the ship. It's decades ahead of anything we use today." He paused. "It's a shame it was hidden away all this time. Think of what we could have done with it." "Maybe that's why it was hidden," Tom suggested. "Maybe we weren't ready for it." Mac considered this. And now? Now we don't have a choice. As they reached Mars orbit, the crew gathered on the bridge for Tom's final words before battle. "We all know the odds," he said. "But remember what Captain Miller said. This ship wasn't built to outgun the Vorn. It was built to outsmart them." He looked around at their faces, friends, colleagues, and newly assigned military personnel, all united in this desperate mission. The Persistence has waited nearly a century for this moment. It's time to show the Vorn what happens when they threaten Earth. The ship took its position behind Deimos, joined by the 3 military frigates that made up the rest of Strike Group Omega. They powered down to minimal systems, waiting. 8 hours later, the sensors lit up. The Vorn Armada had arrived. The battle for Earth had begun. The main view screen on the Persistence showed a terrifying sight. Hundreds of Vorn warships, their black hulls gleaming against the stars. They moved with perfect coordination, like a single organism rather than an armada. In the distance, the flashes of energy weapons marked where Earth's main fleet engaged the front line of the alien force. "This is it," Tom said, his mouth dry with tension. "Pearl, activate all combat systems." "Combat systems active," Pearl responded. "Phase shift drive ready. Predictive defense matrix online. Energy reflection system calibrated." Tom opened a channel to the 3 frigates accompanying them. "Strike Group Omega, this is Captain Walker. Stay close and follow our lead. Remember, our job is to draw their attention away from the main fleet." "Copy that, Persistence," came the response from Captain Harris of the frigate Defiant. "Though I still don't understand how that old bucket of yours is going to make any difference." Tom smiled grimly. "You're about to find out. Strike Group Omega, move out." The 4 ships emerged from behind Deimos, accelerating toward the right flank of the Vorn formation. For a moment, they went unnoticed as the alien fleet focused on Earth's main battle group. "They haven't spotted us yet," Lisa reported from the sensor station. "Their attention is on the main engagement." "Good," Tom replied. "Let's get closer before we announce ourselves." He turned to Ben at the weapons console. "Target the smallest ship on their outer formation. Just a warning shot to get their attention." Ben nodded, locking onto a Vorn vessel that, while small by their standards, was still twice the size of the Persistence. Target locked. Fire. A pulse of energy shot from the Persistence, striking the Vorn ship's shields. The alien vessel shuddered slightly but showed no serious damage. "We've got their attention," Mac announced as several Vorn ships broke formation and turned toward Strike Group Omega. 10 ships. No, 15. They're coming our way. "That's more than we expected," Tom said, surprised by the strong response to their small attack. Pearl. Analysis. "The Vorn appear to prioritize elimination of any threat to their flanks," Pearl responded. "This is consistent with their tactical doctrine observed during first contact." The Vorn ships accelerated toward them, weapon systems powering up. "All ships, evasive pattern Delta," Tom ordered. "Let's see if we can lead them further from the main battle." The 4 human vessels turned and accelerated away, with the Vorn in pursuit. But the alien ships were faster, quickly closing the gap. "They're in weapons range," Ben warned. "Energy signatures suggest they're preparing to fire." "Now we see if this ship lives up to its reputation," Tom said. "Pearl, activate phase shift." "Phase shift active," Pearl confirmed. The bridge lights dimmed momentarily as the drive engaged. A strange sensation washed over the crew, like being underwater and in air simultaneously. On the main screen, they watched as the Vorn fired, their energy weapons cutting through the space where the Persistence had been a moment before. The shots passed harmlessly through their position. "It worked," Lisa exclaimed. "They can't hit us." Unfortunately, the same wasn't true for their escorts. One of the frigates took a direct hit, its shields failing immediately under the powerful Vorn weapons. "The Courageous is hit badly," Ben reported. "They've lost engines and weapons. We need to draw fire away from them," Tom decided. "Pearl, Drop phase shift. Let the Vorn see us again. As soon as the Persistence reappeared on sensors, the alien ships adjusted their attack, multiple vessels targeting the suddenly visible ship. Predictive defense matrix active, Pearl announced calmly as the Vorn weapons fired. Instead of the standard shields used by modern ships, the Persistence deployed its unique defense system. The matrix analyzed the incoming attacks in microseconds, creating reinforced energy fields precisely where the weapons would hit. The Vorn beams struck these fields and scattered, causing minimal damage to the ship. Matrix effectiveness at 93.7%, Pearl reported. Adapting to their attack patterns, Tom opened a channel to the remaining frigates. Fall back to assist the courageous. We'll handle the Vorn. Are you insane? Captain Harris replied. There are at least 15 enemy ships out there. Trust me, Tom said. Just get your people clear. As the frigates retreated, the Persistence turned directly toward the Vorn vessels. What's the plan, Captain? Mac asked, his voice tense. Get in close, Tom replied. The energy reflection system needs to be within a certain range to work effectively. The Persistence accelerated toward the largest Vorn ship, dodging weapons fire with quick bursts of the phase shift drive. We're within optimal range, Pearl announced. Energy reflection system active, Tom ordered. As the Vorn flagship fired again, something remarkable happened. The Persistence's systems captured the incoming energy beam, channeled it through specialized conduits, and redirected it back at the Vorn ship, amplified. The alien vessel's shields failed under its own reflected weapon fire, and significant damage rippled across its hull. It's working, Dave shouted from his station. Pearl, full attack pattern, Tom commanded. Use everything this ship has. The Persistence began a complex series of maneuvers, appearing and disappearing with the phase shift drive, predicting and blocking attacks with the defense matrix, and reflecting the Vorn's own energy back at them. The alien ships, confused by these unknown tactics, began firing more frantically. But with each attack, Pearl learned and adapted, making the Persistence increasingly effective. One Vorn ship exploded as its own reflected energy struck a critical system. Another lost propulsion and began drifting. A third, attempting to retreat, was caught by a particularly powerful reflected beam that cut through its command section. On the main Earth Fleet communication channel, confused reports began flowing in. What's happening to the Vorn right flank? Strike Group Omega is engaging at least 15 enemy vessels. That's impossible. It's just 4 small ships. Commander Reed's voice cut through the chatter. Focus on our targets. Let Captain Walker handle his assignment. As the battle continued, more Vorn ships broke from the main formation to deal with the unexpected threat. The Persistence led them on a complex chase, drawing them further from the main battle while continuing to damage any ship that came too close. We've pulled 23 ships away from the main engagement, Lisa reported with amazement. That's giving our fleet a fighting chance. Pearl, status update, Tom requested, gripping his chair as the ship shook from a partial hit. Phase shift drive operating at 72% efficiency. Predictive matrix at 89%. Energy reflection system fully functional. Overall combat effectiveness remains high. Tom noticed something on the tactical display. The Vorn fleet is changing formation. They're pulling back. The alien ships were indeed regrouping, moving away from both Earth's main fleet and the troublesome Persistence. Their perfect formation had been disrupted, and they appeared to be reassessing their strategy. They didn't expect this, Mac said, his voice filled with wonder. They've never faced anything like the Persistence before. A communication came through from Commander Reed. Captain Walker, I don't know how you're doing it, but the Vorn are retreating from the entire sector. Whatever that ship of yours did, it scared them. Tom looked around at his tired but triumphant crew. It wasn't just the ship, Commander. It was the people who built it, who understood what we would need even before we knew about the threat. And it was this crew who took a chance on an old derelict that everyone else ignored. As the Vorn Armada disappeared into deep space, the crew of the Persistence shared looks of disbelief and joy. They had done the impossible. A salvage crew in a forgotten ship had turned the tide against the most powerful enemy humanity had ever faced. "Pearl," Tom asked quietly, "do you think they'll be back?" "Analysis suggests the Vorn will return with adapted strategies," Pearl responded. "However, the Persistence will continue to evolve as well." Captain Miller's vision was correct. Adaptability is the key to survival. Tom nodded, looking at the stars on the view screen. A ship everyone had ignored had just saved humanity, and he knew that this was only the beginning of its story. "Set course for Earth," he ordered. "It's time to show the world what this ship can really do."